Ever wonder why Bitcoin pumps but your altcoins don't budge? Or why Ethereum suddenly rocket past Bitcoin? The secret lies in Bitcoin dominance. In this lesson, I'll show you exactly how Bitcoin dominance helps me choose between trading Bitcoin or Ethereum and what it signals for altcoins. So first off, what exactly is Bitcoin dominance? Bitcoin dominance measures Bitcoin's share of the total crypto market. The higher the percentage, the stronger Bitcoin is relative to everything else. It's calculated simply by taking Bitcoin's market cap, then dividing that by the total market cap of all cryptos combined. So you take Bitcoin's market cap divided by the total crypto market cap, then you take that number and multiply times 100, and that's how you get this percentage here on the right. So this number shows exactly how money's moving across the crypto market. So it can be used to determine if money's flowing out from Bitcoin into other cryptos or vice versa, flowing from other cryptos into Bitcoin's market cap. And then when used in conjunction with other references and tools, can be determined if money's flowing out of both of these assets into other assets outside of the crypto market. All right, next we're going to cover how BTC dominance affects the market. So here we have a graph. We have a section for BTC dominance, another section for BTC's price action, and then another section for altcoins. So in the first example, we have BTC dominance increasing and BTC's price also increasing, which then leads to alts decreasing in value. So money's flowing strongly into Bitcoin, but leaving Ethereum, and altcoins are lagging. The second example, we have BTC dominance increasing, BTC's price decreasing, but alts dumping. So altcoins are getting crushed even harder typically during this because traders are fleeing to Bitcoin or stablecoins. The third example we have is BTC dominance going up, Bitcoin's price is stable, and alts are stable. The fourth example we have is Bitcoin's dominance is decreasing while Bitcoin's price is going up and alts are pumping. Now, this is when Ethereum and altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. This is typically around alt season. And then we have in our fifth example, Bitcoin dominance is decreasing, Bitcoin's price is decreasing, alts are stable. So typically when this is happening, ETH and alts are typically holding stronger or bouncing quicker. And the last example we have is BTC dominance is decreasing and Bitcoin's price is remaining stable and alts are increasing. So typically this happens when Bitcoin's already had a pretty good run up and then Bitcoin's price is consolidating sideways and people are now expecting for alts to potentially go up. So they're taking the profits out of Bitcoin and putting them into alts. All right, now let's jump into the charts and show some real examples of these different correlations playing out. So I am on the daily and I have the Bitcoin dominance chart right here. We're going to go to the weekly. So we can see here since the beginning of 2023, Bitcoin has had a strong trend up along with its dominance. You know, Bitcoin's just been dominating the market for the past year and a half. So this number right here, this percentage, it's pretty much saying that 64.43% of all the money in the total crypto market is in Bitcoin. And then the other 6% or so is in the rest of the other crypto coins. Now, if we look at this dominance chart, we can see we had a pretty good pullback here. We had some pullbacks here, some volatility. And we had a pullback here. So this most recent pullback was right around Q4. So this is when we had that meme coin season really taking off. And then here at the beginning of the year, this is also when we had some altcoins and meme coins also taking off. But other than that, yeah, it's just mostly been all Bitcoin for the past year and a half that's kind of had the spotlight. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Bitcoin and Ethereum's price action to try to find some correlations with Bitcoin dominance. So I'm going to go down to the 1 hour. All right, so here we have Ethereum's price action, which is this blue line. Then the gold line is going to be Bitcoin's price action. All right, so now looking at this, I can already see a few correlations. So we see Bitcoin breakout start trending up here, dominance breaks up. So one of the discrepancies I see right now, so I see at this point Bitcoin was consolidating, right? And we had a pullback in Bitcoin dominance, and then Bitcoin retraced about 0.74%, and then but Ethereum went down about 3.72%. So right here, we had money flowing out of ETH and altcoins, and it started flowing into Bitcoin. That's pretty much what started happening here. And as a result, we saw Bitcoin dominance rising. So as you see Bitcoin falling, and then we see Bitcoin dominance going up, this would say to me, hey, Bitcoin's pretty strong right now. I want to be trading, Bitcoin. But once Bitcoin dominance gets up here to these levels, right, at this point in time, we see Bitcoin has already gone, Bitcoin's dominance has already gone on a run up. We had a pretty decent increase here. But while that's happened, Ethereum has kind of lagged behind. Ethereum hasn't ran up a lot. Now, this is where we have a, I don't know, like a 1% drop off for Bitcoin dominance. So what happens when that happens? Well, right at the same time, we have ETH, rip up. So it goes up to about right here. Goes up almost 2%, catches up with Bitcoin. So had you been on this move, this trend with Bitcoin, you see ETH lagging, but Bitcoin's ripping up. You see dominance has gone up. If you're familiar with dominance, the more you watch it, you'll realize this is a pretty strong move to go up this percent. And had you been able to know Bitcoin was very exhausted and it was sooner to, maybe not necessarily drop, like retrace all the way back, but to have at least a pullback like it did, you could have anticipated ETH having this run up it did, or at least having a pretty good bounce before coming down. So that's one scenario that we just saw that shows a correlation where you could use Bitcoin's dominance to help you determine whether or not Bitcoin or Ethereum would have been better to trade at the moment. Now, of course, I know you might be asking yourself, well, how would you know at the specific point, right, Bitcoin dominance might reverse? I'm going to cover that here shortly in this video, but I want to point out a couple other spots where, we have a strong correlation between Bitcoin dominance and price action for ETH and Bitcoin. All right. So let's see right now we're at this, there's obviously some resistance right here for, there's some resistance right here for Bitcoin dominance. For whatever reason, it can't, get past this level. So this is a resistance for Bitcoin dominance. So, we have these two touch points. We see we sold off here quickly or retraced quickly for Bitcoin dominance. So for whatever reason, it just can't get above this key resistance. So right here, we see Bitcoin and Ethereum finally retracing after this large run up. And we see Bitcoin dominance also approaching this resistance. So this factored in with some things which I'm going to talk about here soon. You could have seen that Bitcoin dominance was looking weak or over exhausted, and it was going to potentially roll over. And had you been able to see that and you're expecting a bounce here, you could have gotten to a long here, right? And so from that point, you would ask yourself, okay, I'm going to get into a long here, but do I want to long Bitcoin or do I want to long Ethereum? And the way you would determine that is Bitcoin dominance, right? First, you want to make sure you're in your upward trend like we've covered in the previous lessons, and find your correlations between, your resistance and other factors and EMAs and liquidations and stuff that would support, hey, this is a good area to long. Once you determine that, then it's like, hey, do I long Bitcoin or do I long ETH, which is potentially the less riskier. So you determine that by using Bitcoin dominance. So we see it's about to pull back here. And if you look at the percentage gain from this bounce, so this is just from here to here, right? Because again, these are things you'll pick up the more you just start trading Bitcoin dominance like any other crypto chart. We've got support here, right? So what does this look like? This looks like a range. It looks like we're just chopping in here. So when you see this rollover, maybe here around this area, you're looking to, this could coincide with you deciding to maybe take profit. So because then hey, if we don't break this, money's going to start flowing back into Bitcoin again, and ETH's not going to see as much momentum as Bitcoin is going to be at this specific moment. So then I'm going to show you right now, look. So then if we look here, we look at the percentage increase from the time that this retracement started for Bitcoin dominance to right here. We see ETH, the percentage that has risen is 1.6%, whereas the percentage that has risen from that bottom to that same area right here is 1.34. So it's about a 0.3% additional increase for Ethereum. So this would have been a better long. Ethereum would have been, better long for sure here. I'll go down to the 30-minute. All right. So now what I'm looking for, trying to look for some other obvious correlations. Okay, so here's another one, guys. So let's say for whatever reason you decided that you wanted to enter into a long up here. It looks like Bitcoin just made a higher high, a new all-time high. So it's like made a higher high here. Maybe we finally consolidated over this 24 hours or so. And you see Bitcoin creeping up. It looks like it's going to break out, make another new all-time high like it did. And so you're deciding, okay, do I want to long Bitcoin or Ethereum? Okay, here we go again to Bitcoin dominance. We're in this range. We're here at the very bottom of it. Okay, Bitcoin's looking very strong. So if Bitcoin's about to make an all-time high, you have to ask yourself, is it likely Bitcoin dominance is going to roll over, and retrace to these previous levels? Probably not. If Bitcoin's about to make a new all-time high, it's gaining momentum. People are going to get excited, FOMO in. So right here, I would say I'm going to long Bitcoin. I'm not going to long Ethereum. So if we look at the point in time that we broke out of it, we see Ethereum went up 0.78, and we see Bitcoin went up 0.92. So Bitcoin went up more. So that's 0.2% additional. Now when you're scalping, It's pretty significant. Another thing I want to point out is that let's say you had decided you went against you just weren't familiar with Bitcoin dominance and how you could use it to your advantage to decide if you should long Bitcoin here versus ETH at this specific point in time. And let's say you had longed ETH, right? Well, even once you get this small move up, your conviction and confidence to hold on to this trade is not going to be as great because you see we're not making a new higher high here, and you see we're just only gone up a little bit. Versus if you had longed Bitcoin, at this point in time, we made a higher high, right? It's kind of like you're in price discovery mode on the shorter time frames. So yeah, it's like, why would you, take profit here? Of course, you're going to factor in considerable amount of other things, but I'm just saying the outcome could be pretty different. This could be the difference of longing ETH could translate to taking a quick profit. Longing Bitcoin here could translate to, hey, we made a higher high. Bitcoin dominance is, looks like it's going to at least maybe get up here, test this range. I'm going to hold it to here to see if we're much higher or past previous resistance levels to maybe keep moving up. And that could be an additional, 0.5, 1% or so. So that could be the difference in just using Bitcoin dominance in your trade setups as far as when determining to long or even short, either Bitcoin or Ethereum. So to clarify, guys, first thing you want to do is establish if you're in a strong trend or not. And if you are, like here, we're in a strong upward trend. You could have established that here. When you take into account your Bitcoin dominance, you want to see if dominance is rising and Bitcoin's bullish, right? Like here, dominance is strong, Bitcoin's rising. Okay, you want to focus on trading Bitcoin for more reliable moves. If dominance is falling, but the market's still bullish, then you switch to Ethereum to capture those bigger percentage gains. You had this run up here, we hit this resistance, started rolling over. We see Bitcoin climbing up here while ETH's just kind of started to make its move, but lagging a bit. Right here, this is this is like a great time to get in on this move. And then third, if dominance is choppy or unclear, right? And like right here, then you want to potentially reduce position size and wait for clearer signals. So right here, you see a lot of volatility. Wake up, wake down, wake up. And we see price just consolidating or getting choppy. Okay, guys, so you should clearly be able to understand now that by understanding Bitcoin dominance and being able to decide how dominance is going to play out, that can really enhance your decision making for deciding if you want to trade Bitcoin or Ethereum. So again, the way that I do that to precisely measure momentum shifts in Bitcoin dominance, I use the Stochastic RSI and RSI the exact same way I broke down in the previous lesson that I use it to measure momentum for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the RSI and Stochastic RSI, these tools clearly indicate when dominance is gaining or losing momentum, just like they do for Bitcoin and Ethereum, helping me to confirm better trading decisions. So I'm going to break this down right now. Close this panel. I'm going to bring this up. We're going to bring up the stochastic and the RSI. All right. So now I want to go on the slightly higher time frames just to see the general correlation. Oh man, these are pretty high right now. Let me level these out just a little. I guess should be fine. All right. So we're going to start out and zoom out to the weekly. We see on the weekly, we're approaching levels that we have not seen since February 21st. So Bitcoin dominance is looking yeah, pretty strong still. So here we see on the stochastic we're at 100. On the RSI we're kind of approaching these levels, but it looks like, as I broke down in the previous lesson, I really broke down using stochastic RSI and RSI to measure momentum. We could stay up here another month, another 2, 3, 4 weeks. And so, literally, or we could even just dip down and come up. So Bitcoin dominance is looking pretty strong on the weekly. On the daily, we're having a slightly we're having a slight dip. So we're dipping down, right? But the RSI is holding up pretty strong here. We don't see this also rolling over, right? It's kind of consolidating up here. It's looking like it wants to give it one more go up. And if this played out like this, if we curled up here, this would go back up. So this, I would say, it's looking like it might get choppy soon, but it's not indicating if we're gonna, because how strong we're looking on the weekly, it's not indicating necessarily if dominance is ready to retrace or reverse. All right, now on the 12-hour, we see, yeah, stochastics losing momentum. RSI still kind of holding up. Literally, this can continue to go up because of how strong the RSI is still holding up. Just like here at this point in time, it looked like, we were going down. RSI was all the way down here, and then it came up, and so did the stochastic RSI. So we could do the same thing again based on looking on the daily and weekly. Now we go to the lower time frames. Same thing. We are looking very weak on the stochastic, but on the RSI, we're showing strength still. So I don't see weakness. I see at best, or at worst, I see choppiness. I don't see us, reversing here. It looks like we're going to continue to go up for BTC dominance. Now here on the 4-hour, yeah, it's looking like Bitcoin is ready to start moving up again. Bitcoin dominance. Same thing here, guys. Like, we bottomed out for the stochastic RSI. We're at 35, crossing up. This looks like Bitcoin dominance is gonna have a pretty good bounce right here. I would expect Bitcoin dominance at least to come up to here before going down, even if it doesn't go up here or higher. You're just looking at the higher time frames. 1 hour kind of going up, or we have gone up, but the stochastic RSI has gone up, but RSI is not looking as strong. It looked like we could roll over here. So it's looking a little choppy, guys, but it's not looking like, super weak or like it's ready to reverse. So now that we've measured the momentum and we can see that we're looking strong or choppy at worst, on these smaller time frames, you may be able to kind of catch a short-term pullback. But since we're in an uptrend, and if you watched the previous lesson, you should already know, if we're in a strong uptrend, you're trying to catch the bottoms, right, to get into a long. You're trying to find that support. So if you watched the previous lesson, you would know, okay, we've confirmed on the larger time frames that we're looking strong and worst case a bit choppy. So that would tell you should be looking for longs, and Bitcoin dominance is looking, yeah, it's looking strong. So what we do here is go to the smaller time frames, and we want to find when we are looking weak for the stochastic RSI and being oversold at the same time. Like here in this point in time, this is a great example. just most recently on the 15-minute. So 15-minute, we made a W or double bottom on the stochastic RSI. Meanwhile, the RSI has curled up right here. And so it looks like, and RSI already started going up. So even on this pullback, I'll actually replay these candles right here. Oh, bar replay is not available. Really? Okay. Didn't know that. So even at this point in time, when the stochastic RSI looks like it might have topped up and rolled over, we had the RSI curling up. So this would have been a good spot to get into a BTC long. Let's see how BTC price action played out at this given time. So this is at 25th at 5 in the morning for BTC. So let's close these and open BTC's price action. Okay, so we're looking for 5 a.m. Okay, so notice right here, when Bitcoin dominates again, we saw that move coming for Bitcoin, that bounce it was going to have. Look what happened. ETH went down. ETH took a bigger hit. It went down 0.5%. Meanwhile, Bitcoin only went down, like 0.1%. So, this is another example of how you could have protected yourself if you're in an ETH trade, right? Let's say you got into an ETH trade down here and you're all the way up here and you see Bitcoin dominance is about to start rising. And you see, Bitcoin just consolidating. So that would tell you, right? That would tell you that if Bitcoin dominance is about to go up and Bitcoin's potentially going to go up too, some money's going to come out of alts in ETH. So then that would tell me, hey, I need to take profits on this ETH long if I'm in it. But getting back to this point in time, guys, at 05, if you would have got into a BTC long here, you would have seen a small pullback, and then you'd be right now a little over 1% gain before any retracements or pullback have occurred. So that would have been a great long. Now, I'll make it clear, guys, you're not supposed to just use this solely by itself. Just like I've covered in the previous lessons, each lesson is in its own way just supposed to strictly cover how to use that specific strategy or tool. And it should be other confirmations and signals should be taken into consideration when doing your trade setups. So had we been able to get other confirmations, outside of knowing Bitcoin dominance was gonna have a rise here, that could have been potentially a good long for Bitcoin. All right, so I'm going to hop on the hourly. I want to see what the stochastic RSI and RSI was doing at this point in time. So this is around 25th at 2200. So we're going to close this, open these panels. All right, 25th at 2200. Okay. So we see here that the stochastic RSI is, it's showing exhaustion. The RSI is extremely overbought. We look at the 2 hour. And we look at the 4 hour. Okay, guys, this is a great example of being able to determine if exhaustion is ready to reverse. So if you watch the previous lesson, you'll really appreciate this. So remember when I say we start seeing this green signal, of seeing this signal for extreme exhaustion. This means we're extremely overbought. What you want to do is once you start flashing and you start seeing this light up here, we typically continue this minimum for another 1 or 2 bars. You know, here it continued to play out for another 8 or 9 bars, which is a decent amount for the 1 hour. But had you seen this starting to flash up, what you do then is you go to the next time frame and see if we're starting to also flash up. And then if you see it starting to flash up here, you go to the next time frame. Well, if you look on the 4 hour, we have no sign, no flash for extreme exhaustion. That means the move is getting closer to reversing. You know, in the previous lesson, I think we have extreme exhaustion happening all the way from the 1 hour all the way up to the 12 hour. But here we can see that extreme exhaustion on the 1 hour and 2 hour, in conjunction with also the stochastic RSI being up here, because that needs to also be the scenario. We see that this is ready to retrace, to potentially roll over or retrace, have a decent retrace like it did. So right up here, if we go back to the price action for Ethereum and Bitcoin, so right up here, right? This is when ETH's already, I mean not ETH, Bitcoin's already been doing its thing. It's rising while it's like, what the heck is ETH doing, right? So right here, people would have been really frustrated thinking like, you know, why is Bitcoin's pumping, ETH is not doing anything at all? But had you been familiar with Bitcoin dominance and been able to understand how to read the momentum of Bitcoin dominance using the stochastic RSI and RSI, you would have been able to get into, this would have been a great setup, like risk to reward everything, right? It's like, I know Bitcoin dominance, 2 scenarios could have played out. One, you know, Bitcoin dominance goes down, and then, hey, maybe up here, Bitcoin's finally about to roll over and retrace this recent pump we had. But if using the other confirmations and reading momentum for Bitcoin, you know that's not the case. I covered that in the previous lesson too, because the momentum did not show that. But either that happens, or scenario 2 is, you know, Bitcoin keeps going up. So the risk to reward here is great, because here, if you're down here, we're expecting BTC to finally, after this big move up, get a pullback. That ETH is going to have a pretty good move here. You know, this move here, it was like 3 to 4%. Like, that's amazing. So if you had got into a trade setup, you just set yourself up for a long with the stop loss, maybe 1%, you know, something like that. That's like literally a 1 to 4 risk to reward setup, you know? I'm not even gonna say like some guys like, oh look, if you go all the way to the top, we're at 1 to 10 now, like, you know, it's not likely you're gonna let it run that long. Because, right, if you're looking at this, you see Bitcoin dominance start going up and other things. But yeah, guys, that's just a perfect example for a great trade setup using the stochastic RSI and RSI to read the momentum of dominance, and then use Bitcoin dominance to help you determine to see this setup. Next, we have common mistakes and how to avoid them. First off, avoid premature calling all season just because Bitcoin dominance dips slightly. As you saw, I showed the BTC dominance chart on the weekly, and I showed a couple times that we had pretty strong retracements and we had alts have their runs. But a lot of people at those times were calling for altcoin season to start, only to get into the positions and round trip. That's where price goes up and then comes all the way back down to where they entered, or even lower, where they now have a loss. So if you get into trading alts, just, I would say, get into the habit of taking profits. Most alts, you know, lose a large percentage eventually of their market cap. A lot of them don't move on to the next cycle, so keep that in mind. And also, you always want to integrate your dominant signals with market structure, momentum, and, you know, liquidity analysis. So I've covered all these in the previous lessons. I've covered momentum and liquidity. Market structure, I'm going to cover in a future lesson. And I have some market structure established for BTC dominance right here, just to give you an idea. So here we have BTC dominance on the 4-day chart. We have this triangle right now. This is price action over, this is over like 7-8 years, so it's pretty significant on the 4-day. Now, you see here we have some Elliott waves drawn, some resistance, support, and Fibonacci levels. So, here at the 786, we could start to potentially see some choppy action, maybe a reversal here, but it's up here at the top of this triangle, or even if we break out here, start rolling over, is when then I would start looking at alts, because then likely we'd come down here, bounce off, come back down, or go over, come straight down, bounce off this, what was the 786, come up. This would become resistance, and then we'd go down, and altcoin season would actually start. Or I don't want to say start, maybe alts would have a run then before, who knows, maybe Bitcoin dominance stays up here. So these are just things you want to take into account and have set up when you're looking at the overall picture for Bitcoin dominance, and you're analyzing it using the stochastic RSI and the RSI and any other tools or confirmations you may be combining it with for your trade setups. Alright guys, if you liked this video, give that like a smash button. I'm going to be releasing still more videos and lessons for this course. As you see up top, it says I trade live on Femex. I'm going to be trading live, so hit that notification bell if you want to be alerted whenever I trade live. It'll be here on YouTube. Femex is my go-to exchange. They're always offering bonuses, and I've had just nothing but great experience with them. So if you want to check them out, feel free to check out the link below. And yeah, guys, stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video.